You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So Thimerosal, a preservative that was used in multi-dose vial vaccines, was weeded out and recommended to be removed from our vaccines back in 1999. I think by 2001, we removed this preservative, Thimerosal, mercury-based, out of our vaccines. But it still remained in our flu vaccines. Now, most other countries have already banned Thimerosal, so I don't know why everyone's having a complete, panties all up in a bunch moment, because RFK Jr. and the HHS is now working to remove Thimerosal from flu vaccines. I think it's long overdue. But people, are pretty upset at anything this administration does, so they're having a complete heart attack over this, when other countries, Canada, UK, most of the other countries have moved to remove Thimerosal or preservative out of their shots. Now, so Thimerosal is supposed to help prevent, when you have a multi-dose vial, a multi-dose vial suggests you're not going to use all the dosings in one shot or in one, let's say, setting. So there's preservatives to make sure there's no bacteria growth or pathogen growth. Well, we've been able to eliminate the use of Thimerosal by going to single-dose vaccines. So when we have these pediatric vaccines that are now single-dose, you don't have to have the preservative. Well, with flu shots, we still have multi-dose vials. If we move to more single-dose vaccines, we don't have to have that extra preservative. Now, the data has been interesting as it pertains to Thimerosal. People say Thimerosal is completely safe. It may be safe for some, but there were concerns for the ACIP to recommend the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. There was enough concern for them to recommend Thimerosal be removed. So let me just kind of review what was said. This was back in 1999. They said the hypothesis that Thimerosal exposure through the recommended childhood immunization schedule has caused neurodevelopmental disorders is not supported by clinical or experimental evidence because low-dose Thimerosal exposure has not been demonstrated in humans. Neurodevelopment effects have been demonstrated for prenatal but not postnatal exposures of low doses of methylmercury. Now, that's important, but it was linked to prenatal. They said the toxicological information regarding ethyl mercury, particularly in low doses, is limited. They say Thimerosal exposure from vaccines has not been proven to result in mercury levels associated with toxic responses. They say autism is thought to primarily originate from prenatal injury, not necessarily postnatal vaccines. That was, and still the science of autism where they believe it's gene related. And they also say that there is no evidence that ethyl mercury causes any of the pathophysiological changes known to be associated with autism or ADHD or delay of speech. But they say the information related to biological plausibility is indirect because high-dose thimerosal exposure is associated with neurological damage. And extensive toxicological and epidemiological literature establishes methylmercury, a close chemical derivative to the ethyl mercury, is a toxicant to a developing nervous system. They say some children who receive the maximum number of thimerosal-containing vaccines on the recommended childhood immunization schedule had exposures to ethyl mercury that exceeded some estimated limits of exposure based on federal guidelines for methyl mercury intake. So what they're saying is because these kids got multiple vaccines, even though the vaccine might have had a small amount, having the multiple vaccines caused some of these kids to exceed the level or have an exceeded level. Some children could be particularly vulnerable or susceptible to mercury exposures due to genetic or other differences. So this is what they concluded. This was back in 99. The committee concludes that although the hypothesis that exposure to thimerosal-containing vaccines could be associated with neurodevelopmental disorders is not established and rests on indirect and incomplete information, primarily from analogies with methylmercury and levels of maximum mercury exposure from vaccines given to children, the hypothesis is biologically plausible. So I know that's a lot of mumbo-jumbo for we don't have a lot of evidence, but something may be up. And so they got rid of thimerosal in the majority of our vaccines. So did the UK. So did Canada. So why do we still have to have it in our flu vaccines? Well, again, if we're using multi-dose vials, which are cheaper, then they need some sort of a preservative. Now, there are other preservatives that don't necessarily have to involve the thimerosal or mercury. But technically, thimerosal can cause, in fact, there's some case studies of people having issues. Again, it's different strokes for different folks. But if you're looking at mass populations, if you're looking at pregnant women, and there is known prenatal injury, I agree with RFK Jr., we probably don't need the thimerosal in the vaccines. So this move followed a 5-1 vote at the ACIP's June 25th to 26th meeting at CDC headquarters in Atlanta. Committee members voted that all children 18 years and younger, pregnant women, and adults receive only the single-dose flu vaccines free of mercury. I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, I understand the price is going to go up because single-use is always more expensive than multi-use. But if we don't need to be injecting people with preservatives, why not? So I know a lot of people want to have, the panties all up in a bunch over this move. I don't see anything wrong with it. As long as you are not. So the issue I always have with government is you say we need to stop using one thing, but then you substitute or inject something else that could be also harmful. If all they're saying is, sorry, no more multi-use, take out the thimerosal and just use single use, I don't see a downside, especially since flu shots have gotten pretty cheap these days. And Obamacare, I mean, we're already spending billions of dollars on Obamacare. Obamacare covers our flu shots. So I think it's a good move, and I think it's about time. It's a shame it took 25 years for this to happen. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/day to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/day for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. All right. So this is a long time coming. I don't understand why something like this is political, but the videos that we see of younger kids back in the 50s and 60s and 70s doing PE, pretty impressive. Now, you look at these videos thinking it's a military boot camp, and it's not. These are kids that are able to do pull-ups and mile runs, and you're looking at them and they're thin, they're athletic, they look healthy, and you're, okay, wow, I guess this was high school in the 60s or in the 70s. But we have gotten lax with the amount of physical activity we are hoping our kids achieve. Because during the Obama administration, they were worried about bullying. They were worried about fat shaming. And so the presidential fitness test got converted. And since then, we are seeing a huge decline in physical activity overall of our youth. Now, the system wasn't perfect. I remember during the Clinton years, the Pentagon was talking about, or the Joint Chiefs of Staff were talking about how, look, people are getting heavier. It's going to be a major national security threat if our children can't do 6-minute miles or pull-ups or push-ups. So we had issues with childhood obesity, but now it got worse. So just to recap, Dwight D. Eisenhower formed the Presidential Council on Youth Fitness back in 1956. And then during JFK's time in office in the 60s, he encouraged citizens to complete a 50-mile hike, typically done by Marine officers. And so it was in 1966, Lyndon B. Johnson, who established the Presidential Fitness Test. And you would get awards So this got kind of rescinded in a way and changed when the Obama administration did not like the way kids were getting bullied. And the Obama administration thought that maybe they could have a something called like the Presidential Youth Fitness Program, which focused on students' individual health over athleticism, according to the People magazine. Now, I agree. I like what Michelle Obama did in terms of let's get nutrition, back in the forefront of kids' health. It just kids weren't eating the school lunches, all this wasted food was thrown out, and it just didn't end up being that successful. So the presidential fitness test gets phased out in 2012, and here we are 13 years later, struggling even more. So the presidential fitness test is going to return to schools. In fact, 2026 marks 60 years since the test was first implemented and 70 years since forming the Presidential Council on Youth Fitness. Obviously, there was a concern. I'm not saying all kids were athletes and able to be in the military by the 1950s. The fact that the president had to form a council, Dwight D. Eisenhower in the 50s, means they were concerned about the fitness of some kids. That's, childhood obesity and lack of athletic ability has always been an issue in schools, but the numbers are now just completely tipped in the direction of kids not being able to do what they need to survive, let alone to stay healthy. So the requirements of the presidential fitness test, and again, these requirements might be updated. The original one was you had to do a 1 minute or a 1 mile run, 1 minute of sit-ups, and a choice between push-ups and pull-ups. So I remember being in school, I was able to do a 6 minute, maybe it was like 6:45 minute mile, but you had to run a mile. And if you couldn't, you sat out, and I'm not sure what those students did or what those students had to do. But I remember doing my sit-ups, and I remember, and it was, don't wear a skirt when you do them. We all had to be in PE clothes. And I remember having to do the presidential fitness test in the 80s. And I was able to run a mile. And I was pretty athletic. I was never first picked when key team captains were picking people for sports or their teams, but I could run. And in fact, I was asked to be on the relay team in one of my schools. And so I was pretty excited about that because I could run. But I always want to be more athletic. Why? Well, it's healthy. You could survive if you have to run from a fire or run from a Hamas, terrorist assault, while you're at a peace conference or a concert. You need to be able to move, run, fight back. And so I've always been a proponent of that. But the thing is if we are bringing back the presidential fitness test, you have got to make sure, and I've said this so many times before on my show, make sure you have a remediation process. So I remember the kids who couldn't do the sports, they would just walk together and do the mile. They continued to walk. So I remember those of us who could run, ran. Those who got tired and didn't run, they still walked and finished it. But I don't know what happened to them after class. No, they did not get beat up. And maybe some of them did. If we have academic remediation where, okay, you're not passing this math class. You're not passing in medical school. We have remediation. You're not passing the biomedical class. Biochem. If you don't pass academically, you have academic remediation. Why aren't we also doing that with sports? Why don't we have athletic remediation for sports? So for those of you who can't run a mile, even if you can't do it in 6, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, if you can't run a mile, and the majority of kids can't, it's sad how they cannot run a mile anymore. Then we're going to condition you. You have remediation. And we are going to help you physically to get to some of those benchmarks. Personal trainers, coaches, PE teachers. So, but Dr. Daliah, that's going to cost too much money. Well, we're remediating people academically. I hope we are. Why aren't we also remediating them physically? Are we just saying, sorry, you can't do it, tough? But why isn't somebody's failure in athletics also given focus and priority as we do with academics. I understand we're letting academics now fall off the curve. But as a doctor, I ask not only about your grades, but also how's PE? It's really important for a doctor to ask a child, how's it going in PE or physical education? And if they say, oh, I can't run, we ask why. I get short of breath. Okay, I need to know about that. If you're getting short of breath, do you have a heart condition? Do you have asthma? What is going on in PE? And if the parents are like, oh, my kid doesn't like sports, he just doesn't do them. I go, does he exercise at all? Every child should be playing and exercising and running around and doing stuff if they are physically able and not having a disability. And if they're not, I think every doctor needs to ask about that. So the presidential fitness test, bringing that back, I know people are all, oh, what's Trump doing? They're going to body shame. No. Listen, doctors have stopped asking people about their obesity because they were accused of fat shaming. Aren't we worried about people's hearts and diabetes? You're scaring us into not addressing issues that are really important. An overweight child is a tragedy. We need to intervene. Now, they might have a medical condition. Their cortisol levels, their thyroid levels, they might have a medical condition, an orthopedic issue. But we help them. You don't just say, sorry, go sit on the sidelines while we all play flag football. So this will start, I believe, in 2026. Whether it's shuttle run or sit and reach moves or push-ups or pull-ups or so this executive order is I think if I could see the executive order, I don't have it. Sorry, up on my computer. I need to find it. Is going to then and I understand the Department of Education now is starting to be dismantled. But I really do hope that all schools start to relook at what we're doing in terms of physical education. And by the way, I don't like the idea of PE being twice a week or 3 times a week. These kids need to be exercising throughout, which means English class. If you're reading to them Shakespeare, these kids are, reciting, soliloquies or monologues. Why aren't you guys walking around the school? Why aren't you walking? But we have to incorporate physical activity and help these kids who are failing. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Okay, so one thing I really fear as a doctor and then as myself as a patient is I don't want to get chronic back pain. Seeing what my patients went through with their chronic back pain scared the living daylights out of me. I don't want to have any chronic pain. And sadly, the older we get, the more we run the risk of having back issues. The more car accidents we're in, the more ski accidents we're in, the more things that get done to us. I forget how many total car accidents I've been in. I forget, but that did a number on my back and my neck. And when I say neck, I'm also including neck. I'm talking about the spine, the cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. And then even coccyx. Sometimes my coccyx hurts. It's our old rudimentary tail. And so when I see individuals struggle with low back pain, they could be on a variety of different treatments, anywhere from anti-inflammatories and pain medications to injections to surgery to chiropractic manipulation or osteopathic manipulation to massage to ice. And there are a lot of things we use for low back pain. But a recent study said only 1 in 10 of them actually work. Now, we got to take the study with a grain of salt, because if you have low back pain and you love your osteopathic doctor or chiropractor, or you love your massages, or you love your injections, okay, then it's helping you. But this study on a whole really kind of looked at things, and let me kind of review that with you. So this was a study that was published in BMJ Evidence-Based Medicine. And they found 1 in every 10 treatments, so maybe 10% of them, may be effective in relieving low back pain. Chronic back pain is one of the most common types of pain, affecting 16 million Americans. I think that number is grossly underrated. I think it's even more. But according to Dr. Aidan Cashin, Deputy Director for the Center for Pain Impact at Neuroscience Research Australia and Conjoint Senior Lecturer in the School of Health Sciences in Sydney, he says, our review did not find reliable evidence of large effects for any of the included treatments. Now, they looked at 300 randomized controlled trials, looked at data on 56 non-surgical treatments, 56 different ones for acute low back pain, chronic low back pain, a combo of that. And they looked at pharmacological, like NSAIDs, like Motrin, naproxen, muscle relaxants, non-pharmacological exercise and massage. And they said ineffective treatments for acute low back pain, meaning back pain that's happening acutely, over the period of hours, days, weeks, were found. The ineffective ones included exercise, steroid injections, and Tylenol. They said chronic low back pain, antibiotics, and anesthetics were also unlikely to be suitable treatment options. Now, antibiotics. This is being reported by Fox News. If antibiotics were tested, you should not really be using antibiotics for pain. However, a lot of people are doing that because they notice their UTI pain goes away, their throat pain goes away within an hour of taking an antibiotic. So we think there might be some anti-inflammatory effect, or maybe there's a change when the antibiotic comes in and there's starting to be this pharmacological change. The inflammatory cells might be like, all right, guys, let's back off, because a lot of our pain is from our inflammatory cells and the inflammation that ensues. And so there's a chance that maybe that's why people feel better from bronchitis or sore throat or UTIs when they take an antibiotic from a pain perspective, because there might be some sort of a negative feedback mechanism on the inflammatory components. But I don't know what's been studied in that. I just know people say antibiotics help them with their pain, but they say don't be doing that. For acute low back pain, they said non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like your Motrin, your ibuprofen, naproxen could be effective. For chronic low back pain, they said therapies including exercising, taping, spinal manipulation through osteopaths or chiropractors, antidepressants, transient receptor potential vanilloids, these TRPV1 agonists, is a new science, or a new avenue of medications that could be used for pain, very targeted and very, very cool. But they said, even though they can be effective, the effects were small. So the findings were inconclusive for many other treatments due to the limited number of randomized participations and poor study quality. They say we need further high-quality placebo-control trials to understand the efficacy of these treatments. So that's why I said, guys, take this with a grain of salt, okay? I mean, just because the study says, well, chiropractic or osteopathic manipulation may not work for long-term low back pain. Listen, they even said that the study had limitations. So if you like it, do it. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work, you don't do it. If the injections help, great. If they don't, they don't. But what I think is really going on is people's back pain. It really depends. Is it a disc issue? Is it arthritic issue? Is it a dependence on pain medications? Is it a threshold issue? Is it a low serotonin issue? I know some of you are like, antidepressants. Why are they studying that? Well, because we found people with lower serotonin may be more prone to hurt. Yet when your serotonin is higher, it may not. But like, did you guys ever bang your elbow and hit your funny bone? And on days when you're in a bad mood, you're like, son of a... But on days when you're in a good mood or you're excited about something or you're at a concert, this is what really blows my mind. Concert injuries. I'm not talking about the severe ones. How many times have we been banged around and somebody hitting your head or tripping you and you falling and bleeding or whatever, but you're at a concert, you're having a good time, you don't feel it. You might feel it the next day. So when your endorphins are up, your serotonin's up, your dopamine is up, yeah, that could have an effect on pain. So that's why those things were studied. But some people have such severe spinal stenosis or narrowing of their spinal cord, such severe pathology causing their pain, that yes, a lot of these things might not work. Now, a lot of when somebody does have severe back pain, the medical providers, and I see thousands upon thousands of pages of notes every month because I do disability exams for the state and workers' comp exams. And you'll see doctors will say, look, we could do a trial before we jump to surgery. We could do a trial of anti-inflammatories. We could do a trial of physical therapy, trial of massage, hot, cold packs, injections. But if it fails, we might have to go and do surgery. But no doctor's going to jump right to surgery for back pain, without at least trying conservative measures. They're called conservative measures. So for some people, it does work. They say, you know what? I don't need surgery. It's livable. I'm fine. I could deal with this. It's not getting worse. For others, they go, I can't take it anymore. I need the surgery. Now, another thing, too, that I always tell people is if you had a life where you were 0 out of 10 pain, and you never felt pain, and all of a sudden you've been in a car accident, or you've had a broken bone, or you have an issue, your pain threshold's different. Success, yes, albeit amazing success, would be going back to 0 out of 10, but you might be at a 1 or 2, and that might be the best you're going to get. And you have some individuals that will sadly hurt themselves by taking pain pills and do other things because they're like, but I'm not pain-free. So because I'm still having some pain, I need to take something. I need to do more. And they don't realize that the 1 or 2 out of 10 might be your new norm. I have hip pain and knee pain. I was very lucky after my ski accident or after my car accidents to go down to 0 pain. But on some days, if I think about it, I'm like, okay, wow, yeah, it's a 2. That's a 3. And doesn't mean I have to take a medication for it. If it's livable, But if you're having chronic inflammation, sometimes we do like to minimize that inflammation, but you got to be careful with these NSAIDs like Motrin and naproxen because it can affect your kidneys, your heart, your stomach, and your liver. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
You're back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So who do you fear the most? Do you fear somebody who could shoot you on the street? Do you fear a gang member or a Tren de Aragua or MS-13 member? Do you fear somebody like a future Hitler? Or is it somebody close by? You know, like mother-in-law, spouse. It's interesting. There's this meme. I've seen this meme before where it looks like it's a homework assignment. And the question number 6 is 3 parts, A, B, and C. Part A of question number 6 is, who is your hero? So you see the kid write in all caps. Looks like the child is probably kindergartner to first grade. DAD. This person's hero is dad, which is really cool. With my boys, dad was a hero. Mommy was like a medical hero because I would always kind of fix her boo-boos. But daddy's, and I'm fine with that. You know, dad. Then part B. Why do you consider this person your hero? And the kid writes, he is brave. Yeah. Daddies do show, like when there's a spider in the house and I am cowering behind the couch. I don't really do that anymore. But, you know, he'll go up to the spider. Especially because you can't really see it unless you go, I mean, it's like so small, he has to go up to it. But then part C of this question. Is there anything your hero is frightened of? And the answer, the kid puts, is mom. His hero is dad. Dad's brave, but he's frightened by mom. Now, this could be all made up. Maybe this isn't a real me. Maybe this is, somebody kind of wrote this all out. Although I got to tell you, the handwriting does look, very similar to what a kid would write. But I find that a concept fascinating because I have a lot of guy friends. And one of their biggest fears is their spouse. And I always found that, I remember my mom and dad, watching them and their attitudes towards each other. Where we don't want to upset your mom. Don't tell your mom. Don't your mom. And I always, so to me, mom was scary. Dad did most of the beatings. But my mom, I was even more scared of because she would be the one that had control over the beatings and had control over, she would be the one where dad came home going, how's my baby girl? How's my little girl doing? And then, well, she did this. You need to give her the belt. You need to whatever. And then dad did it. So I feared my mom even more than I feared my dad. And so the concept of us fearing our spouses, it's funny. We were out with some friends and somebody said, look, you do X, Y, and Z because I got to tell you, you are not going to want my wife to be in a bad mood. And, why is marriage like that? Same thing. I mean, I don't like, men being in a bad mood too. Men could be grumpy also. But the last thing I want, and I've always done this with my husband, is I don't want him to fear me. If I'm unhappy about something, I express it and I fix it myself. And we rarely fight. We fought a lot about in-law type stuff when we first got married, but we don't really have that many more fights. We've been really, really blessed with that. Maybe it's because we've already, after 26 years of marriage. No, I've been married longer than that. Hold on. I was married in 1996. So I'm almost at 28 years of marriage. You see, I don't even remember. We could probably fight about that, but we won't. But after 28 years of marriage, I actually had to teach my husband how to fight. Because we would start getting into an argument and he would be throwing, bombs. And I'm like, all we need are little BBs. Okay, you don't need to carry out the big rounds. Okay, we're just having a conversation. But, he would do that and then it'd run out of ammunition. And now I'm like, I have at least 3 hours left of ammunition because I only went for the baby stuff. Really, you already went there? I got 3 hours left. What more do you have? So my husband kind of learned, okay, you know what? I better not throw everything at her. Because that's how I think some men think. Like, you know what? We're going to stop the problem by throwing everything at it. Whereas with me, I'm like, you know what? It's the long game. It's a long strategy. All right. Let's kind of curb this. We can end it and I could save the ammunition for another fight. But, and maybe my husband does fear me. I don't think he does. Because I don't yell a lot and I don't get mad a lot. But when I do, I get quiet and I leave. And if there's something I've told him that upsets me and he doesn't care and he does it again, I just go, see ya. I just leave. Now, and that might scare him. My leaving, you would think it'd be like, whoo, hallelujah, praise the Lord, she's gone. But there are marriages where I really think the spouses fear each other. Now, is that just normal? The thing is the only marriage exposure and research I was able to do was my parents, which I thought was an absolute cluster. And they did end up getting divorced later, but then they lived together. And then it was, I don't know, that was a pretty dysfunctional marriage. And then my own. And then what my friends tell me. Some of them are very open, some of them aren't. And I don't pry, but so I kind of amass whatever I can. But I've never been married before. So I did the best job I could. Apparently we're doing a good job if we've lasted 28 years. Not that good a job because I never remember how long we've been married. And sometimes I forget his name and I call him the kids' names. I do all the time. Stone, Brock, Corey. Yeah. It's Core. It's too long. And when I need something done, it's too hard to say Corey. It's too many syllables. Core. And he's like, yeah. But you really shouldn't be scared or frightened of a spouse. I know this meme is funny and we make jokes. I don't know if you saw that Key and Peele routine where they're talking about their wives or their girlfriends. And then she did this and she took forever. And I was like, which? But I'm not going to say the word. And he's like, really? You said that? You called her that? Well, I was thinking that. And so we see the jokes where everybody, they're not going to call their woman that usually because they don't know what the complications would be. Unfortunately, with domestic abuse, there are a lot of spouses who are frightened by each other, men and women. But if you are frightened by your spouse, there is something wrong. We make jokes about it, but you should not have to be frightened. Now, you might misinterpret what frightened is as, oh, they're going to be in a bad mood. It's not going to be a fun evening. That happens with roommates and with couples. But if you actually are frightened Or if you have the kids perceive that, don't tell your mother. Oh no, don't tell. These kids perceive that parents are frightened by that. And yeah, I wonder if my boys thought that daddy was frightened. Remember I told you this happened a few years ago where there was a box of pizza and my husband ate some chicken wings and left the bones of the chicken wing in the pizza, but they're really small chicken wings. So I grab a piece of pizza, I think it's a chunk of sausage or something, and I almost swallow part of a chicken wing bone. So I'm like, what the hell is this? And he said it was the kids. And the kids are looking at, why would dad throw us under the bus? I was more mad at him for throwing my kids under the bus than leaving chewed up, salivated chicken wings on my pizza. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.